Week 17 of the NBA 2021-22 season was trade week, and it was a busy one. This is Run It Back, NBA Week in Review, Trade Edition.
The voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money, you can cash it. For news on LA hoops, come over to Beach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports. Debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Beach Basket. The Beach Basket, coming soon on air. The Beach Basket, where the news begins. We're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the average fans.
This is the show where we go coast to coast to talk to fans of the teams that made the biggest trades. Tonight, I'm excited to talk to Jack. He runs a very good LA Clippers Twitter account. JP to talk New Orleans Pelicans. Tom to talk Sacramento Kings. Akeem Evans to talk Philadelphia 76ers. And Brandon Wynn to talk Washington Wizards. Also be joined from time to time by Steve Persillo and Isaac Edelman of our partner site FL Teams as we break down one of the wildest NBA trade seasons ever. The moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here. In honor of the big game, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code TBPN and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code TBPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56 and sponsor of Run It Back, NBA Week in Review. All right, we're going to conclude our crisscross around the country by dropping the pin in New Orleans and bring in JP, who runs the @PelsPress Twitter account. The Pelicans are adding CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell, giving up Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nickeil Walker-Alexander, Didi Louzada, a protected first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks. I'm excited to talk to JP about all of it. Let me bring him in now. Welcome.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm so tired, man. I thought, this is going to be a great idea. Let's crisscross the country. Let's talk to fans. I've been at this for 2 hours. I feel like I'm in a marathon, man. I'm excited, though. You and I have talked a little bit already. So I feel like I can share with you a little bit. I'm wiped out, but I'm legitimately excited about this trade, about the Pelicans. I shared with you earlier when we spoke that one of the things that's been so cool about this site and doing what we're doing is being able to talk to people like you, fans that really know their team. I could name 3 or 4 Pelicans. I couldn't tell you much more. I found out who coaches them today, thanks to you. So it's impossible to know all 30 in depth, I think. So it's great fun to learn more about each team and to talk to people that are passionate about them. And so I'm really excited that we met. JP, like Tom, I met through Twitter. We don't have anybody. We've had people covering just about all 30 of the NBA teams. We've never had anybody cover the Pelicans for the Peach Basket, which I got to fix. We got to fix that to finish up this year or next year. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we got a chance to talk. Let's start with this trade. This is a big one for a team that is just on the brink of the play-in right now. Let's start with the question we started with for everybody. What do you like about this trade?
Obviously, you like CJ McCollum. He is a fantastic scorer in the NBA. He's a 3-level scorer. He gets to the rim. His mid-range game is very good. And obviously, he's an established three-point shooter, as we all know. Larry Nance is a very good defensive and offensive weapon. He's one of those guys that you don't necessarily highlight as we need to stop this guy on the offensive end. But genuinely, he is a threat. He's a very good player in a lot of different ways. Tony Snell, he's more of a meme now than he is anything. If people call it the Tony Snell, where you get 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists in 26 minutes. You're just getting out there getting cardio. But in the NBA with a young team like the Pelicans, these veterans that have been around for a long time are very important. For the past couple of years, the Pelicans have been a team that is very young. That trend continues into this year. Even look at some of the players who are getting significant minutes this year. Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, and Trey Murphy here and there. They're all rookies. Granted, some of them are older rookies, but rookies still the same. First year in the league makes a lot of things easier when you've got guys like C.J. McCollum, Larry Nance, and Tony Snell, and Jonas, and some of those other guys that are just a little bit older, that have been through it, that have been through the growing pains, the understanding that 82 games in a season is a whole lot different than college, and those things are real. Those are very good positives. C.J. McCollum definitely opens up more offense for Brandon Ingram. Through skip passes, through pick and rolls, through whatever it is the offensive set is. You've got your star kind of in BI right now, and that is who they are playing through for 90% of their offensive sets. It's Brandon Ingram. And so bringing a guy like C.J. McCollum, who's a veteran, who's a scorer, who is a good dude. He's the president of the Players Council in the NBPA, and a good quality guy, as well as Larry Nance, Tony Snell. It's huge for a team looking to go into the playoffs, to hopefully get in the playoffs here sooner rather than later.
You brought up something that was really interesting, and I hadn't even considered it before. The NBA right now is a superstar-driven league. You've got to have a super. It used to be you used to need a superstar, then you needed two, and now you need three, right? And there was always that arguing between those superstars whose team it was, right? That's what drove Kobe. I'm an LA guy. That's what drove Kobe and Shaq apart. Kobe, it's my team. Shaq, no, it's my team. And boom, that gets fractured. I look at the Pelicans now, and this is my perspective. And again, I value your perspective a whole heck of a lot more than mine. But I don't see a superstar. I see three really good players in C.J. McCollum, Zion Williamson, potentially, hopefully, and B.I. Do you think that these are three great players that are going to be enough, or do you think these guys have got to take that next level to be that superstar caliber player? Or do you think they're already there?
Well, I think that Zion is on the brink of a superstar. He doesn't get that credit a lot because of his injury history, and that's just part of it right now. That's the unfortunate part. But honestly, I think now you obviously have a couple of different ways to look at it. But let's think about some of the NBA champions over the past couple of years. Last year, Giannis is your superstar, and the other two guys are just stars. Yeah. And, right now, trade deadline just happened. The Nets had to break up their big three. The Lakers, you said in LA, they're not playing very well right now, and they've got three superstars,
Good point.
They've got some really, really good players. Yeah. I think it always helps when you've got a guy or two guys that are your go-to scorers, or your go-to guys, and then you have a third complementary piece. Look at the Milwaukee Bucks, for instance. Like I said, they always had Giannis and they always had Chris Middleton. But it wasn't until the Pelicans traded Drew Holiday to the Bucks that they really took that next step and then won a championship. Right. So I agree that you need good players. You need good, solid guys that you can depend on, and that will always be there for you. Be able to get your star open looks, but I don't know that, in today's NBA that you need three superstars to really win a championship.
Great point. That's a great point. And looking at it objectively, which I guess is something I hadn't done, you're right. It's impossible to deny, right, that Giannis was the guy. Chris Middleton is a great complementary piece. And I think that's the trick, right? Finding the pieces that fit together. Let me ask you then point blank. do you see CJ McCollum, BI, and Zion fitting together? I got my thoughts, but your thoughts are more important. Do you think this is going to work long term?
Long term's definitely a difficult conversation because CJ's only on a 2-year deal. He's got the rest of this year, which about 30 games, and then the next 2 years after that. So long term, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think anybody is. One of the things that frustrates me a lot as a fan of a small market team is these ESPNs, the Bleacher Reports, all these other sites coming out with trade grades when we haven't seen anybody on the court.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's super frustrating. So I don't know, tonight they just lost to the Spurs. So now they're actually out of the 10th seed. They're in the 11th seed currently. And there's a clear issue on the offensive and defensive rotation side. So it's yet to be determined. I think Zion's a really good player. He's a unique. 26 points on 65% from the field is very good, But BI and him had some chemistry issues last year as well. So it's all part of it. Basketball, when it's played in its purest form, where guys are moving, they're rotating. On defense, they're talking. The ball is moving, not necessarily the man. It's finding the open person is an absolutely beautiful thing. Yeah. We try to force it and we try to do it all ourselves. That's when it can look clunky and it can kind of become something that's pretty ugly.
Yeah. I don't know if you're a coach or you talk like a coach. I know you played the game because we talked before, but that's perfect. That's the first thing, when I coach kids, we always talk about moving the ball. The ball can get there quicker, right, than you can dribbling the ball. And anytime, if you have a possession where you're holding the ball for longer than 3 seconds, this is what I teach my kids. It's too long. Pass the ball. Figure out a way. There's always going to be, some movement. It's necessary, and that's when the game. That's what was so incredible about the Warriors, right? When they were playing that phenomenal style of basketball, that ball just zipped around the court, and you just couldn't follow it quick enough. Invariably, there was an open shot. And 40% of the time that shot went. Was there anything about this trade that you didn't like?
Well, to be honest with you, from the beginning, I wasn't a huge supporter of the trade. I think CJ McCollum is a great guy. I think he's an absolutely great scorer. But right now, the best defensive player on the New Orleans Pelicans is a rookie. Granted, he's a very good rookie. Herbert Jones, like I said, he came out of Alabama, did Defensive Player of the Year type player. So they brought him in specifically for defense. But Josh Hart has I guess, two things that CJ McCollum really doesn't have, and that's weight and size. And so Josh Hart has continually been up against and guarded guys anywhere from Giannis to some guards that are a little bit shiftier than, a little bit shiftier than some forwards are. So I think that a lot of defense was given up, and not only defense, but a lot of vocal leadership in the locker room. And speaking of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, one of the things that he said about the trade deadline is you don't want to give up chemistry for star players. And I think that's a very underrated point in regards to a lot of NBA trades. A lot of times we try to treat it like 2K, right? We just, I can trade for everybody. I can have Giannis, LeBron, and everybody else on my team, and it'll all work out because I'm controlling it. But they're real people, they're real players, and life doesn't work like that. And so that's one of the big reasons I was concerned. I think Larry Nance will kind of fix that. But like I said, he's coming off a knee injury. We'll probably be back in about 6 weeks. If he's back in 6 weeks and they're in playoff contention, that'll really help. But if he's only there for the last 2, maybe 3 weeks of the year of the season, then and you're out of contention, I would just shut him down for the rest of the season anyways.
Yeah, you alluded to the fact that you just don't know what the future holds. You don't really know what next week holds, right? So it's also, you just have to wait and see. But when I look at this on paper, I look at CJ McCollum, a player who really can live behind the three-point line, but does more. I look at a player like Brandon Ingram, who lives in that mid-range game, but can do more. And I look at a player like Zion, who really lives in the low post, can do more. But so when you look at that just looks like a match made in heaven, man.
Yep.
We just got to see if that translates, right, from paper to the court. Certainly hope so, but I can definitely see why this team was put together. You and I talked earlier, and I brought this up. I don't want to say surprised. I guess I'll go surprised. I don't think it's the right word. But CJ came out and said, I wanted to go to New Orleans, right? He worked with the Portland Trail Blazers, and credit to them for not just shipping a player out who had his whole career there. I think that's great. That says a lot about that franchise, and I think that's going to probably attract other players. But credit to them for bringing in CJ and letting him have his pick to whatever degree they could. But you talked about chemistry. How important was it not just to get a player of CJ caliber or CJ McCollum's caliber, but to know that he wanted to be there, right? I just think that changes everything. That just kind of sweetens the pot a little. What do you think?
Yeah. So one of the color commentators for the Pelicans, his name is Antonio Daniels. We talked about him a little bit earlier today. Fantastic commentator. Very big on player empowerment and things like that. One of the things that he's been tweeting a lot recently is to hashtag change the culture. That's for the Pelicans. And, bringing in guys like CJ, I think kind of proves that the culture is changing. But that changed by, in my opinion, two things. And the first was hiring Willie Green. Willie Green is a player's coach. He always has been. He empowers his players more than anything else. More than any other coach that I've really seen recently, to be completely honest. And he learned that from Monty Williams in Phoenix,
Right.
because they worked together. And he also worked for the Warriors and some other guys that are very star-driven people type teams. So we see a lot of that trickle down. And the second is Brandon Ingram being a genuine quiet star, but also he is very supportive of his teammates and is very happy to see them succeed. And I think that's proven in so recently it's kind of been viral on Pelicans Twitter, at least. 2 or 3 players will go into Brandon Ingram's post-game presser, and they'll ask him questions, and they'll mess with him, and they'll joke, and then they'll have all these type of things. And you see that, and you're just like, man, I really love these guys. I really hope that they succeed, and they really hope they succeed, not only for their own success and the team success, but for each other. And I think that is something genuinely that some teams just don't have.
Yeah, and it does matter. I've always it's so wild because chemistry is so weird. You want it because it makes it fun to go to work, but you don't need it necessarily. And oftentimes the way you get it is by winning, right?
Right.
You win, you end up liking each other. So it's such a weird little thing. But I think at the end of the day, if you have people that like each other, win or lose, that counts for something. Now that this trade is done, the dust is settled. I know Zion is a big question mark. What? Let me ask you this way. Assuming, number one, Zion won't be coming back, the team that you have now is the team you're going to have. And then the second part is with Zion coming back, which I think you told me that he might be right around the time that Larry Nance's coming back. What do you think the Pelicans' ceiling is? Are they a play-in, play-in and done, not a playoff team, play-in and playoffs, play-in and surprise people? What do you think their ceiling is in those two scenarios?
Without Zion, and the biggest thing we've talked about is if they can play together, and like you said, if that chemistry can be established and they're competitive, I think that an 8th seed, a 7th seed, getting in that playoff contention, I think is real. Whether that be a gentleman's sweep, I personally would not want to go up against the top teams in the East, specifically, the Suns. I mean, they are rolling right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard for a team that could still be trying to establish their identity to go up a team like Phoenix, who already has their identity, who went to the finals last year, who are hungry. CP3, Devin Booker, all want their first ring type. They were so close last year. So I think the ceiling without Zion for this year is definitely a gentleman's sweep, a first round playoff exit. However, you get Zion back, I think that changes a lot of things, because that gets wide open looks for CJ McCollum at the 3. That gets wide open looks for Brandon Ingram in the mid range. Valanciunas posting up, and when you've got a superstar, when you got a guy that can score 26 points, that helps everybody else out too.
Right. I forgot about Valanciunas, man. This team's loaded. This team just got to figure it out, man. You all got some really good players in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think the first five, six guys are incredibly good. I think the rest of the roster might be where some question marks are.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of 3-point shooting right now. And a lot of people that's why they wanted to trade for CJ. They said that he'll fix our 3-point problem. It's like
right.
He will make his 3-point shots, but he's not going to make everybody else make their own 3-point shots.
Right. Right.
So I think that might be a problem that needs to be addressed. They still currently have a roster spot, whether they convert a guy like Jose Alvarado, who's been playing really well, on a 2-way contract, whether they convert him at the end of the season or they sign a 3-point shooter that is available on the open market. The big thing, obviously, with Jose Alvarado, he's the first point guard. Really, he comes in for Devontae Graham. And if they don't sign him to a contract, then if they make the playoffs, he would not be able to play because he's a 2-way player.
Yeah, I got to say, my name's Jose. And so having a Jose in the NBA is really endearing. Because I always figured if I had 6 more inches and a jump shot, I'd be in the NBA. Because I had the mentality, just didn't have the talent or the size.
Well, Jose is they list him at 6 feet tall, but I think he is pushing 5'9", 5'10".
Wow. And Jose's the guy who came out and said, "I'm Pat Beverly," right? He was.
Yeah, he said, "I'm a light-skinned Pat Beverly." Yeah,
I love that. When he was guarding Pat Bev, if I remember correctly, I've seen a couple of his highlights, and he just looks like a fun guy to watch play. Wow. All right. The future looks bright. I think what has been really interesting in talking to everybody that we got a chance to talk to, you mentioned changing the culture. I'm an LA guy. I saw the worst franchise in the history of the NBA, the Clippers, transform. They are a good franchise now. We talked to a Sacramento Kings fan talking about how that trade is changing the culture in Sacramento. And Sacramento, after the Chris Webber years, had really taken a dip. Things had not been good there. When you say change the culture in New Orleans, again, and this is why I love talking to y'all, because I don't really know. I never thought that the culture was bad. What has to change in New Orleans? What do you think they need to move away from?
Personally, I mean, we're talking about small markets versus big markets, right? New York, LA, Miami, teams like that traditionally have a higher, let's say, shine to them than places like New Orleans and some things like that. And almost for a long time, there was this idea that small markets couldn't win championships, but look at Cleveland, look at Dallas, look at San Antonio, look at Milwaukee most recently. Even Phoenix, who was also in the finals last year, they're all small market teams that have built organically and made a trade for a player that was really good, that really put them over the top. And I think that's what New Orleans is really trying to try to do as well. It is difficult in a lot of different ways to say how you need to change the culture or when the culture kind of quote unquote went bad. But I think 2 things really happened that made people start to look at New Orleans as a negative place. I think New Orleans, first and foremost, will probably always be a football town, just with the Saints being there. Right. Football in the South is definitely viewed as higher than basketball. It's just kind of part of it. But Anthony Davis demanding a trade, requesting a trade to LA definitely hurt some of the culture, some of the things he said, the way that he kind of went out. And also JJ Redick, when he got traded to Dallas, at the end of his contract, when he said, "I really wanted to go to a team up north to be close to my family." Nobody was really wanting his contract, some things like that. And he was disgruntled and kind of said a couple of things on his podcast, which I really like. And I think JJ is a great announcer and host and things like that. But I think some of those things might have jaded a couple people towards New Orleans. Some pros that are pretty good. Obviously, Anthony Davis winning the championship and JJ Redick being a 15-year, 16-year veteran in the NBA. Their words hold a lot of weight in the NBA. So I think that changing that narrative from like, hey, this is not common. Come look at our head coach, who's awesome. Come look at our facilities. Come look at the players and the culture we're being here that are here. I mean, we talked earlier about how Josh Hart and Nikhil, the day after they got traded, were sitting courtside for the Pelicans game, supporting their guys. And Josh Hart was even wearing a Brandon Ingram jersey. And you just don't see that. And so I think the culture is changing in large part to Willie Green, Brandon Ingram, and some other guys. But ultimately, I think that it will come down to wins, and that's just going to be part of it.
It always comes down to scoreboard. That's how everybody's graded. That's at the end of the day what counts. I didn't mean to steal your thunder on this because I did kind of allude to it, but let me leave you with this. Any talk of the Pelicans has to be centered around Zion Williamson. He is, kind of the big unknown right now, at least for a lot of us outside of the market. Tell us what you know about Zion. Is the expectation that he comes back to play with CJ this season?
There's a lot of optimism that he will play this year. He is working out very hard in Portland from everything that everyone has said. A lot of it is kind of up in the air. He broke that fifth metatarsal in his foot, and the place where he broke it, there's not a lot of blood flow, so bones like that are very difficult to heal, and they just take a little bit of time, and it wasn't healing properly, so he had to get an injection. Basically, I think that there are about three scenarios that could happen. I think that things could be going well, and he's just working out, rehabbing very hard to get back in this season, and that's a very real possibility. I think that he could be struggling for that bone to heal, and he ends up having to have reconstructive foot surgery like Kevin Durant did, in OKC. So the last one is I think that he will come back healthy, but the Pelicans could be too far removed from the playoff scenario, and they could just shut him down for the rest of the season, just like Larry Nance.
Well, hoping for the best. I think he's an extraordinary talent. The thing that I liked about him, just kind of from a marketing perspective, outside of his game, is just he had that kind of infectious smile that I hadn't seen really since Magic Johnson. Just a guy that you like to smile with, and there's something special about that. Right now, the Pelicans sit at 11, and I've got them 4 games behind the Clippers at 8. So a lot's got to go right, but I love this trade for them, and love getting a chance to talk to you about them. The Twitter account, Pels Press. Make sure you follow that. I'm excited to follow moving forward, and hopefully we get a chance to talk again. I appreciate you taking the time, JP. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Podcast is awesome.
Right on. Thanks again.
The voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's his money. You can cash it. For news on LA hoops, come over to Beach Basket.